But first, we get to walk our talk and we do get to move from the head into our heart. And so I'm going to ask that we all close our eyes. We just let go of our life. We let go of the day. We fall from this busyness, this control that often does happen around, inside, above, around our head. So just let go of that busyness, that mind chatter. Do your best to just let go of any thought that you're following, just any busyness, mind chatter. And do your best to almost fall back, like fall back and down and into your heart. Imagine your favorite person is waiting to catch you. Imagine that there is just a web of love more around your heart center, just down a little bit. So, can you fall back, let go, release any tension, any tightness, any resistance, just anything that you're holding on to? Let it go, relax, and fall back into love, into this present moment, and into a greater connection with your heart as the springboard to connecting with your soul, with the oneness of all energy in this life. And so we do just anchor our conscious, clear intention of the highest good. And we do ask that we use this time in this space to heal and to clear. If there is anything that we can let go of, any karma, negativity, imbalance, disease, anything that can be lifted in our openness, in our own loving for ourselves, we ask that that be done. And we ask that love, God, the universe, support us infinitely in that process. And we also ask that we use this time to expand more fully into our clarity and our courage, into whatever information is valuable and on point for us as we show up for more of what we want in this beautiful life. And the courage, more energy, more enthusiasm, more risk taking, just a greater ability to show up as the small child that we are, just with unlimited energy and unlimited faith that we are loved and we are worthy of good, great, amazing, wonderful things. And so we complete this process just with gratitude. We do our best in this moment just to be grateful for our entire life as it is, as we are open to the fact that right now our life just as it is the absolute best springboard for us to grow and expand and learn for our absolute highest good, our most beautiful life. And so it is. So just taking your time and coming back. Thank you for honoring me in that. And as I shared a little bit before, so the reason I started to really dive into this research is that I got super jazzed that what I had learned in a very woo-woo Doctor of Spiritual Science and Masters of Spiritual Psychology all of a sudden has started to be not proved yet, because proof is a very specific scientific thing, but there is an abundant amount of research right now that is suggesting everything that we know to be true in the spiritual communities, i.e., it is compassion and loving that heals. And so, so I want to share just one kind of big nugget that I've just been recently learning in this applied neuroscience for brain change and the treatment of trauma, anxiety, and stress disorders. And that is that belief systems are not cognitive. So I think what's kind of wild is that for many years now, there has been a bit of an obsession on belief systems and the way that I've heard a lot of people supporting others in changing these belief systems is purely through a cognitive model, mentally, right? Just mentally being aware of, oh, okay, what's a belief I have that's not working for me? I'm not enough. I'm fat, I'm not worthy of XYZ, right? And so what a lot of the mindset school of thinking out there has shone the light on is simply just cognitively changing your mental approach and doing a lot of affirmations, just mentally, cognitively trying to change that belief through thinking. And so what they're finding out right now is that those beliefs aren't even stored mentally, they're stored emotionally. So what we now know is that these emotionally held neuronets or pathways, right? Really, our brain wiring was created at a time when an event happened with emotional impact, either good or bad. So our belief systems are created in a way that basically in moments in our life that a large charge, a large emotion had to be present. So I came up with a couple of examples. So, maybe we feel really loved and safe, when we're at church, or we start to believe or observe that, our mum really loves God. Oh my God, she loves God. And when we're there, it's positive, there's love, we feel safe. And so that is often why we take on those beliefs, because it feels good. When my mum loves God, my mum loves me. And so why not, right? I'm going to take on that belief. And it's actually not as much a cognitive process as an emotional one. We feel loved and we feel safe, right? On the flip side of that, what about, mum is really disappointed when I get bad grades, right? That doesn't feel good, right? To have someone disappointed in us. And so that negative feeling starts to create that wiring of, this isn't okay. I need to be smart. I need to do better. I need to be successful. I need to actually show up and achieve things in order to be good, in order to be loved, in order to be okay. And interestingly enough, the flip side also works on that one as well, right? When our parents are super psyched, oh my God, you got straight A's, and it looks like they're loving us more, we really start to strengthen those actual proteins that start to get developed in that our belief system, our pathway starts to go, oh, okay, this is why I must be smart, right? I have to be smart in order to be safe. I have to be smart in order to be loved. And we start to create these conditions, these beliefs, these patterns. So all of this to say that what we're finding in neuroscience right now is that without an activation of that negative emotion, it's very hard to change our beliefs. So say, for example, we're kind of stuck in a lie that I'm not beautiful. I'm not beautiful. I'm not attractive to the opposite sex. And I say this because I was stuck in this one for a long time, just really feeling ugly, not beautiful, not attractive. And just trying to go, I'm beautiful, I'm perfect, right? Just doing that cognitively, we now know scientifically, is not going to work. So that's the good news. The bad news for some of us, or maybe all of us, is that the best way forward is actually to feel that, right? And as humans, we will do just about anything not to feel our feelings, not to actually, when we're in that moment of putting on a dress and we look in the mirror and we just feel not wonderful about ourselves, right? We will usually avoid, distract. There aren't that many of us that will go, oh my God, my human's really sad right now. She's lost in the lie that she's not beautiful. I'm going to take some time to feel that, to have compassion, and to pick her up and give her a big hug, right? That's quite a developed level of ability. And so, the good news is that we have all the power to change these things. The slightly more challenging aspect of this is that we are called to embrace those negative feelings, not always just spiritually bypassing, lifting into the truth of like, no, I am beautiful. No, I am perfect. Well, if you want to create some of those deep beliefs, those blind spots, and I do believe that they dovetail with our karma. If you really want to change those, how about having a little compassion for just how shitty your human is feeling? And how about being with yourself and actually, and this is what we're going to do right now, how about supporting yourself, self-nurturing yourself, self-soothing yourself to move from contraction into expansion so you can actually rewire those neural pathways. So we're going to dive into this right now, and this will be about 15 minutes. So feel free to get comfy wherever you are. And I'm going to ask that we all close our eyes in this moment. And we're just simply going to go through a series of not so great feelings and just start to be aware of finding the contraction, finding the energy in our body, and then using our kindness, love, and compassion to move from contraction to expansion. So first of all, I'm asking us all to please set a positive, loving, clearing, healing intention. And please include for the highest good. Because we are kind of going to dive into our own life right now and get messy. So please anchor clearly this time for you. Communicate directly to that high self, that Holy Spirit, whatever higher power it is, that is the wording that works for you. But just ask for the highest good. Ask for the greatest clearing, the greatest healing, the greatest rewiring for you right now. So communicate that directly to God, to love, to the universe within. And now we're just going to allow ourselves to be open and allow a negative experience over the last few months to pop in. Don't look for it. Don't think about it, but just be open, contemplating, wondering about what's a shitty feeling we've had over the last little bit. So just let that pop in. And you may need a little bit of time just to remember, well, what was going on? You know, what were the outer world components of this? And that's okay, do that. You know, maybe there were people involved, maybe there was a specific incident involved. Just be aware of that and kind of let yourself connect with this moment in time, this specific experience. And if you can, hone in on the most painful or most challenging moment instead of just a whole vague situation like a fight with my husband. Really let yourself be aware of that moment in time when you felt the worst. Maybe it was when you slammed the door and left and went to your bed and cried, or when he said something. So it's like, what is that very clear, specific moment in time when, yeah, that negative emotion was just really present? And so it can take a little bit of time to kind of just let the files in the brain sift through and for that to come clear. But now we just get to feel that. And the big challenge here, and really this is the biggest skill that we need to develop in this work, is letting go of the head, letting go of the justification that, well, I'm angry because he did this, or this is painful because this needs to change. The big step is letting go of the why and the rhyme and the reason, but just really letting yourself feel. I feel afraid, or I feel angry, or I feel sad. Really letting yourself be aware of the energy in your body in that moment. And there will be a physiological symptom at the heart of this. And this is a very nuanced skill. It can take some time to develop this ability. But what physiological symptom are you aware of? Is it a very faint quickening of your heart? Is your heart actually beating a bit faster? Or does it feel like you've been punched in the gut, just like this big black hole that seems to just pull everything into kind of like a black hole? Are you angry and there's like almost fire coming out of your eyes? But just can you be aware of that, the clearest physiological feeling? We could describe it as energy, because we can't see it, we can't touch it. It really is just energy. And can you just say yes to it? Kind of like a small child walked into the room and said, I'm so angry. I just lost my favorite toy, right? Can we just be with that? Say yes to it. Welcome it. Just welcome it. And as we welcome it, as we begin to say yes, I honor you, I acknowledge you, I'm here to feel you, to be with you, to love you. Can we start to energetically be aware of the tightness, of the contraction of this energy? And can we, with our loving and our softness and our holding, can we allow it to expand? Can we gently nudge it from one of a negative emotion through to just expanding that emotion? Can we just allow it to expand, to open? And again, this is a very nuanced skill, kind of like when we pick up a violin. No one's ever picked up a violin and made a beautiful sound. This work takes practice. But let's continue going through this process of finding our feelings, being so fully present with them, and bringing in our loving, our compassion, so that they soften and expand. And so sometimes this process is really easy. All that feeling needed was to be heard and to be seen and to kind of be surrounded and loved, and it can pop through quite well. It might even have moved. But sometimes there is a deeper level of resistance. And if that's the case, we will address that at the very end. But just start to really be aware of how really just bringing our conscious awareness, our loving, our connection, our holding into that feeling can actually start this to move through very quickly. So if that feels a little lighter, I'm going to ask that we go on to another situation. But if that still feels really deep, stay with this one and do this one again. So we're going to either call forward a new situation right now, or just reconnect to that same situation, but just something that's shitty. One of the best things to dive into, the best thing to dive into is just whatever pops into your head. It might not even make sense and might not even be that negative or a big charge, but really trust what just pops in. And if nothing's popping in, one of the best things to dive into is when those emotional moments are irrational. Maybe someone didn't text you back, and all of a sudden you felt incredibly betrayed. Just when something little happens, but the feeling is actually quite large. They're great opportunities to access this emotion in support to truly rewiring neurologically, but also our belief systems, and I believe our karma. So once you have that next experience, let yourself just know what was going on. Look at the people, the outside world. Remember how that felt. And then let go of the outside world and focus purely on how you're feeling. Where do you feel it? And are you aware that there is a contraction of some kind? And so once ever you've found that feeling, that contraction, just allow that to be. Feel that. And at the same time, we're also saying yes to that. So really what we're doing here is bridging the love that we needed at that time that this belief was created with this physiological response, this neural pathway that got stuck. So the key here, the magic here, is allowing ourselves to feel that feeling, but to also be aware that there is a higher part of us. There is a love, there is a soul that's holding for us, that's with us, and that can actually flood us with the love, the compassion, the sweetness that we do need, not only for this situation, but to clear this pattern. And so when I'm kind of feeling really negative and I'm kind of lost in that emotion, it's kind of hard for me to really lift into wanting to love myself, wanting to have compassion for myself. I usually use a hug from my mum as the catalyst, as the beautiful, divine, imagined gift that I give to myself to springboard my own loving for myself. Because really, that's all we're doing in some beautiful way. We're allowing ourselves to hold, to love, to surround, to heal ourselves. And so as we're aware of just this love, we can kind of marvel at being aware that we're doing both. We're feeling really shitty and we're feeling that negative emotion, but we're also doing this incredible thing of showing up for ourselves, of listening, of loving, of holding, of hugging ourselves. And it is this loving, this softness that helps us naturally go from contraction in our body through to expansion. Michael Singer calls this relaxing and releasing. Can you just relax whatever's going on physiologically, emotionally? Can you release it? In my experience, compassion and love is the missing ingredient that we need to be able to do that. But however we move from contraction to expansion is the key. Mm. And so finally, oh my Lord, we're just going to bring in whatever it is that we need. And sometimes this is the big key. If something's a little stuck, it's not moving, it's not expanding. One of the easiest questions we can have for ourselves and our feelings is, what do you need? What do you want? And so in service to completion, just ask your beautiful human right now, and whatever feeling it's going through, what do you need? What is it that you want? And don't answer from your head. Don't think about it. Let your heart, your stomach, whatever was triggered, whatever was up, let that part answer. You're probably aware that it's quite a small child kind of response. Like, I just need to know that I'm going to be okay, or I need a hug, or something on the levels of of loving, but just trust whatever your human, this part inside, asks for. And then be aware, are you willing to give that to yourself right now? Are you willing to lift into who you are as this huge divine heart, this huge bundle of love, this spark of the divine? Are you willing to lift into that now? And to tell yourself you're doing a fucking amazing job, or to give yourself that hug, or to tell yourself everything is gonna be okay. God's got us. We've got us. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna encourage us to take 1 minute just to really, through that voice of loving, give ourselves what we need. And so just bringing that to completion and just being aware, was your body, these feelings, was it able to let that in? Whatever it is you needed or wanted, was it received? Did it land? Is there a greater expansion, a greater letting go of the pain? And a receiving of truly what it needs, because it is in this receiving what it needs. These proteins do over time dissolve, and we're rewired back to the way that we were when we were a small child, hopeful and trusting and just unlimited in our hopes and dreams for this incredible life. So just be aware, were you able to let that in? Does that part feel a little bit better? And it only needs to be a little bit. If there was no change, I would encourage staying with this part, but we're going to complete. The more that we do this process, the greater this change and this dissolving takes place in my experience. But just really thank your beautiful body. Thank all the little yous, all the ages of you that have endured and have gone through so much. Just thank yourself for showing up and give yourself a big hug, however you do. Righty, that's it. So I will be showing up every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, sometimes with my husband, who's with me, loving and loving me. We're actually in a different area of the house today because we had some work being done. But I'm going to be here every Thursday at 10 a.m. sharing not just a meditation for how to grow our muscles of compassion and loving in self-healing and rewiring, but also just a little bit of the recent neuroscience that really helps our head get on board with our heart. Alrighty, love you guys.